Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 906 for the 15th of February, 2026. Richard Saunders coming to you from Sydney, Australia. Lots of cloud and rain and a bit cooler today. Now in my hand here, I have a little booklet I picked up at a wellness expo, which was held yesterday at Rose Hill Gardens Racetrack here in Sydney. Now this was seemingly put on by the City of Parramatta. The official name is Mindful Living Expo. And if I go to the website of the City of Parramatta, Mindful Living Expo, and it was Saturday yesterday and Sunday today. So as I record, it is going to be opening soon. And it says, we want to connect Parramatta's health, wellness, conscious community with brands, experts and practitioners who champion healthy, sustainable living. Well, it was really a El Cheapo cut down B-grade version of Mind, Body, Spirit, Mind, Body, Wallet. And I went there along with the Secretary of Australian Skeptics, Lara Benham, to check it out. And the exhibitors were only just maybe eclipsed by the number of visitors. In other words, there was hardly anybody there. And when we passed the room of psychics, the psychics were just chatting to each other because there was hardly anybody having a reading. And indeed, if I go to the official website, mindfullivingexpo.com, it comes up saying 5,000 plus attendees. Well, they must have been arriving later on in the day, or maybe they were all there before we arrived because there was scarcely anybody there. Maybe that's what they were hoping to get. Well, we might be tempted to say, well, that's encouraging. People are not turning up to these New Age fairs. Well, lots of people do turn up to Mind, Body, Spirit, the main one in Sydney, because I think it's more established and it's a much better location. Rose Hill Gardens, as lovely as it is just out of the way. So I'm not surprised not many people turned up. But was it worth it? Yes, it was. Yes, it was, for two reasons. Particularly, the first one is that we were given a little talk and an information flyer, which I have here from an outfit called OLY Life, which is primarily something you put your feet on. The Ollie Life Tetra P90, it says. Ollie Life Tetrahertz Tetra P90 is a device designed to harness the power of bioelectrical magnetic therapy to support cellular function and promote general wellness. Only Ollie Life Tetrahertz THZ Tetra P90 stands out due to its unique combination of bioelectric, magnetic and terahertz energy, each offering distinct yet complementary health benefits. Okay. And I have scanned this entire booklet. Oh, at the end it says here, disclaimer, we do not make any health claims with our products. The information contained here is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, cure, alleviate, mitigate, or prevent any disease. If you have any health problem, you should seek the advice of a certified health care provider. But the implication is, when you go there, that it is doing something to improve your health. So it's all very well having these disclaimers in these brochures and on websites and things, and I think that's quite a cop-out. The other reason it was worth going is I at last got to see the stage performance of a psychic, a so-called psychic that has been around the traps for a long time, one Florence King, who's reasonably popular psychic in Australia. She did her stage show, granted in front of a limited audience, nevertheless, and I now have a much better understanding of her performance. Let me put it that way. Maybe more to come on that in the fullness of time. I'm sure she was getting messages from ghosts, but they appeared to mumble a lot and weren't very sure of what they were trying to say. But enough about that. What's coming up on today's episode of the Skeptic Zone? We're going to start with Kate Thomas with Woo Watch or Woo of the Week. And Kate is going to be asking the important question, where are the receipts? In other words, where is the evidence for all the claims of alt-med and woo-woo in general? And all we ask is what we ask of traditional, dare I say traditional Western medicine, which is not really a good term, scientific, evidence-based medicine. We demand the same of that as we do of woo-woo and alt-med. But where is the evidence? And then harking back to last week's episode where we talked about scalar energy, I seek the advice of Lara Benham. Now, she's had quite a lot of experience teaching science because we both realized that it's a more complex term than we thought. Anyway, Lara tries to help me understand this whole scalar business a bit better. Then we have the Australian Skeptics Newsletter, written by Dee, our news editor, and read by Adrienne Hill, over there in snowy Calgary, Canada. And to round off the episode today, the TROVE Archives, we're going to be looking at something that definitely does need receipts, does need evidence, severely lacking: foot detox baths. I think my feet need detoxing quite a lot. Anyway, you've probably seen these things. You turn up, they're often at shopping centres here, Chinese medicine or alternative medicine or something like that. You turn up and get a massage and maybe put your feet in this bath, little bowl bath, and the water turns murky. And the claim is, of course, that toxins and heavy metals are being expelled through your body through the soles of your feet. Who knew? Let's put our best foot forward and research and look to see what the newspapers say about foot detox. Now, just before we start the show, some great news. It looks like the one and only Dr. Karl Kruszelnicki will be part of Noticon and the Australian Skeptics Convention coming up in July here in Sydney. For more information about Noticon, featuring, of course, the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe Rogues and lots of special guests, head to skepticzone.tv. And there's a link there to Noticon, plus Skepticon 42, which will be the Australian Skeptics' 42nd annual convention. Or you might just want to go to noticoncon.com. And also, those wonderful people down on the surf coast of Australia, the Surf Coast Skepticamp 2026 is happening very soon. In fact, this will be the 12th time it's being held, and this will be at the Community Centre Hall at Aries Inlet. And what a beautiful part of the world that is, and people who know that part of the world will know what I mean. And what a lineup they have. Paul Gallagher, Chris Guest, Annie McCubbin, Susan Gerbic, my goodness me. Who else? Karen Bickersma, Mal Vickers, Terry Kelly, and Ross Finley, and probably some more. And when is that again? That's on Saturday the 21st of February. So Saturday coming. Head for surfcoastskepticamp.org for more information. Well, that's enough for me at the moment. It's a cooler day today. As I said, a bit of rain. Let's have a look out there. Might rain again very soon. I just heard a turkey walking across the roof. Those people in Sydney might know what I mean. Sometimes we get brush turkeys. Very strange. Anyway, it's time for me to run downstairs, and I think I'll have a nice salmon bagel. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Wacky woo that's worth watching. It's Woo Watch with Kate Thomas.
Hello friends, welcome to Woo of the Week with me, Kate Thomas. This week's Woo of the Week is inspired by a creator called At Cortland Fixes Everything, who ends his punchy political observations with one word: revolution.
Hi, here's a list of things I find worthy of revolution. Number 1, people Ubering to the hospital because ambulances are too expensive. That's dystopian. Revolution. Number 2, adoption being a billion-dollar industry. So you do or do not want us to adopt kids? I can't tell which. Revolution. Number 3, going to a hospital that's covered under your insurance, but the doctors they hired are not covered, and they did not tell you that, so you have to pay full price for those doctors. I feel like they go out of their way to make our lives harder. Revolution. Number 4, having a college degree, but the starting pay at the job with that degree is only $16 an hour, which is not enough to live, much less pay back your loans. It's almost like they want us to be in debt forever. Revolution. Number 5, having to go to mass casualty training as an elementary school teacher. Revolution. Number 6, college used to...
I'm borrowing the format, but in the spirit of the Skeptic Zone, I'm calling for something slightly different. Not revolution, receipts. Because if you're making a medical claim, be it about grounding your body or aligning your aura or fixing any one of your medical complaints, then it should meet a medical standard, right? And the wellness industry, which is a multi-trillion-dollar global industry overwhelmingly marketed to women and largely unregulated, makes a lot of, medical claims. And I'm using that word, medical, quite wrongly. So today, I'm not asking for a revolution, although if I see one more American chiropractor talk to me about the longevity hack they don't want you to know about, then a revolution may well be in order. I'm asking for receipts. Statins cause dementia. Despite statins being amongst the most studied drugs on the planet, despite decades of use, despite large population-level studies showing no consistent causal link between statin use and increased dementia risk, this keeps rearing its ugly head online. Aside, I even had someone ask me about this in real life in my pharmacy the other day. Literally, he said, but your brain needs cholesterol, so using statins means less cholesterol for your brain, and I cannot tell you the amount of self-control it cost me not to yell, your brain makes its own cholesterol, you dingus. And in fact, some emerging evidence suggests a potential reduced dementia risk in statin users. And yet, this fear persists. If you're going to tell millions of people to avoid a drug that reduces cardiovascular mortality because it causes dementia, I would like to see receipts. You can balance your hormones with food and herbs. Now this one sounds lovely, gentle, empowering. But let's pause for a moment on the word balance. Hormones are not meant to be flat. Insulin rises after you eat. Cortisol peaks in the morning, melatonin rises at night, estrogen and progesterone fluctuate across the cycle. Hormones are a dynamic signaling system. There's no agreed clinical definition of hormone balance, no validated biomarker called balanced, no diagnostic criteria, no clinical endpoint that says, congratulations, your hormones are now balanced. What clinicians actually assess are patterns, ratios, and life stage appropriateness. So when someone claims herbs will balance your hormones, my question is very simple. Balanced according to what measurable standard? Oh, and also receipts. Your liver needs detoxing. Your liver's entire job is detoxification. It performs first-pass metabolism. It processes drugs. It metabolizes hormones. It converts ammonia to urea. It does this continuously. It's its very reason for being. Unless you are in liver failure, which is a serious medical condition requiring urgent care, your liver does not need a smoothie to detoxify it. If a tea, powder, or patch claims to detox your liver, then I would love to see clinical trials, defined endpoints, biochemical outcomes, in other words, receipts. Adrenal fatigue. Your adrenal glands do not get tired like you do after a long week or like I do after wading through all the wellness woo out there. When adrenal glands actually fail, it has a name, adrenal insufficiency, also known as Addison's disease. People don't feel a bit flat. They lose weight, their blood pressure drops, they collapse. Untreated, it can be fatal. That is not the same thing as being stressed, burnt out, underslept, or perimenopausal. If you are diagnosing a condition that does not exist in endocrine guidelines and offering supplements to treat it, again, say it with me. Receipts. My point here isn't to mock symptoms. People genuinely feel exhausted, foggy, anxious, inflamed, unwell, and burnt out. My point is this. If you are making a medical claim, especially in an industry that is largely unregulated and heavily marketed to vulnerable people, then you need to meet the medical standards that qualified registered health professionals are held to. Anecdotes are not evidence. Popularity is not proof. Being comforting is not responsibility, and confidence is not data. If it works, prove it. One more time for the people in the back. Receipts!
You might remember, and I hope you do, on the last episode of the Skeptic Zone, I was talking about scalar energy. The emphasis was, of course, how the term is misused in woo-woo, alt-med, and dodgy medical, so-called medical devices. Yes, scalar energy can fix your teeth, or whatever their wacky claim is. Usually the claim is that so-and-so, fill in your own nonsense here, can help you with just about any complaint. Now, I tried to give an understanding, an explanation of what the term scalar means, what it is, a definition, and even I wasn't very satisfied with what I said and what I discovered. It's a little bit more complex than I thought. So, what could I do? Well, I travelled to visit Lara Benham, of course, who you hear on the Skeptic Zone. Now, she's the Secretary of Australian Skeptics, and also has had 20 plus years experience as a high school science and physics teacher. It's always a good idea to turn to people who know more than you. So we ended up in her studio, at her place, for the following conversation.
And I've used the term scalar a lot in those 20 years because it is a descriptive term that we use to describe a quantity in physics.
Right.
So my use of the word has been when we're defining different quantities in physics, we can put them into one of two categories. We either call them a scalar quantity or a vector quantity, depending on whether all quantities have magnitude, they all have a size, a number associated with them.
Right.
But some quantities in physics also have a direction. So, for example, you can't state a force without also giving it some kind of direction. So if you push something with a force of, say, 10 newtons,
It's going somewhere.
that has to be in a particular direction. So that's called a vector quantity because it has a direction associated with it. Whereas, as you said last time on the show, temperature is a scalar quantity because it has a number associated with it, but it doesn't have a direction. You don't have a temperature in the direction of north or south.
Yes.
That doesn't make sense. So that is a scalar quantity. And that has been my understanding. That's been the way I've used the word scalar for the last 20 years. In order to have a look at this scalar energy, scalar fields business, I had to type it in because it is not something which I'd heard of. Energy as a concept in physics is a very definite thing. If you look it up in a textbook, it'll say that energy is the ability to do work.
Yeah.
But it's a quantity with a number and a unit. It's the standard unit that we use for energy in physics is the joules. But there are other units you could use. And energy itself is a scalar quantity. As far as I'm aware, there is no such thing as a vector type of energy. So saying scalar energy itself seems a bit odd.
Right.
Because energy it's a scalar quantity.
So I think that the people who use it for New Age methodologies and or modalities or devices have the idea in their head that it is a specific type of special energy. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the impression I've got too. And as I said to you, the more research I've done about this, the more confused I have got. It seems to be something that Tesla said many years ago.
Yeah.
And a whole load of stuff that they claim he said, but there's no evidence that he ever did. So I would err on the side that he probably didn't. And they've taken that and they've run with it, and they've, it's become a whole pseudoscience on its own. In actual physics, there is no such thing as scalar energy or scalar waves in the way that they are describing them at all. You can have a scalar field, apparently. It's not a term that I had come across, but it is a thing. So we're in this room right now.
Yeah.
So this is a three-dimensional region in space. And if you just imagine every single point in this room, we could define or we could measure the temperature at that particular point in space.
Right.
That would be an example of a scalar field. That would be a temperature field.
Right. Okay.
Which would be really boring, for example, if every single point had exactly the same temperature, but it gives you the idea.
I see. Yes.
So that's apparently what a scalar field is. Now, that's just not a term I've ever used because it doesn't really help with anything. It's not useful in most cases, but it is a thing. But I don't think that's what these people are describing. And when they use the term scalar energy and scalar waves and anything associated with that being beneficial to humans or healing, all of that is pure pseudoscience. There's nothing behind any of that would be part of physics or biology.
But it does seem like just a scientific word they've latched onto.
Yes, but it's messy because there is real science behind it.
Yes, like quantum realm. I mean, there's real science behind quantum, yet the term quantum is often misused.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a little bit of the real physics that is, as a bit of history here. Mm-hmm. The late 1800s, you've got a variety of scientists trying to define and describe light. And James Clerk Maxwell came up with the theory of electromagnetism, was able to describe light and electromagnetic waves using a series of 4 little equations, which I just think is remarkable. Heinrich Hertz is famous for a variety of things, but one of them being his he generated and detected radio waves, which are a part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And then at some point, Tesla, who at the time was experimenting with alternating current, was experimenting with electricity, referred to a type of wave as a non-Hertzian wave, which my understanding is he was talking about waves that are not electromagnetic waves because Hertz had come up with these radio waves. So he's talking about waves that are not light. A little Google search tells me that non-Hertzian waves, often called Tesla waves or scalar waves, are theoretical longitudinal electromagnetic waves that differ from standard transverse Hertzian radio waves. If you remember back to school, longitudinal waves are another type of wave as opposed to transverse wave. It's just to do with how the wave is propagated through space. Yes, Tesla did propose the idea of these waves. At the time, he was talking about them traveling through the ether, which is a concept that we have long since discarded due to lack of evidence and lack of needing there to be an ether. At the time when an ether was proposed as this kind of substance that permeated through the whole universe and allowed waves to travel, it was because there was a need to define something there. But since then we realized that we don't need that. We can explain things without the use of an ether, and there has just been zero evidence. So for a very long time we abandoned the concept of an ether. And so if Tesla was around today, he would also agree with that. There's heaps of ideas in science that are proposed and then we realize are incorrect. It's just a normal part of the scientific method. That there's just nothing there. It says on this Google search that these Tesla waves propagating parallel to the direction of motion, which is a description of longitudinal, they are hypothesized to enable lossless energy transmission and potential biological non-linear effects. I'm not 100% certain what they mean by that, but there is no lossless energy transmission, and there is no evidence of there being any sort of biological effects.
But as I said before, I think you'll agree with me, it's a classic case of where something, especially from Tesla or in science generally or something like that, has been, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. It's been, yes, the word has been completely misused. And people saying this device uses scalar energy and you wear it and it improves your health.
Well, the wearables is a whole other rabbit hole that we could go down. And it's not one that I've gone down in detail, but I did have a look at that paper where they had the Scalar Energy pendant that was released, that was found to be giving off levels of radiation that are, not that there's any safe level of radiation, and some kind of healing pendant should not be giving off radiation, but in levels that are genuinely unpleasant. And so I think they were stopped from selling them as soon as that was discovered, obviously. But that, to me, is, and again, I haven't researched this, so I apologise, but that's very suspicious. You can't accidentally create a pendant that's got some kind of radioactive element inside it. It's
bizarre.
So that's a deliberate thing. And that worries me for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Because some of these people are probably just unaware that they've been told this.
Yes.
It sounds legit.
Yeah.
And they just parrot it back.
Yeah.
And they're not, okay, it's on them to do their research, but it's not directly their fault. But if you're producing something that's got giving off radiation, nuclear radiation, ionizing radiation, that's deliberate and dangerous and odd. That doesn't fit with the rest of this to me.
No, it's bizarre, and that is easily, people, if you want to look that up, you just look up Scalar Energy pendant, and the Australian Nuclear Agency picked that up and put out a press release, and that was stomped on pretty quickly. But you're right, the people at the Mind Body Spirits, the Mind Body Wallets manning the stores, they often just parrot what they've been told about these things.
And this is why it's very, very important to pay attention in school.
I couldn't agree more. Lara, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Adrienne Hill from Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada, and I'm here to read the highlights from the Australian Skeptics Newsletter. This is newsletter number 240. Now don't forget, you can sign up to this newsletter at skeptics.com.au and get the full report, complete with all the links every other week, right into your inbox. But let's see what our news editor, Dee, has for us this time. Hi all, says Dee. Psychics dominated the news this fortnight as infamous American psychic makes her plans to come to Australia to, quote, work on some cold cases, end quote. Meanwhile, a prediction, for the multi-billion-dollar industry of online psychics estimates they may grow by 60% in the next decade. Concerningly, however, amid the American Immunization Committee contemplating revoking the recommendation for polio immunization, Australia breaks a 35-year record for whooping cough cases. Additionally, the Victorian Skepticamp has announced a list of speakers for its event, set to take place on the 21st of February. And we at the Australian Skeptics have teamed up with the Skeptics Guide to the Universe to bring you Not a Con, Skepticon, Life, the Universe, and Everything, our 42nd annual conference. Tickets are on sale. Continue on for more information. In the meantime, read on. Dee. Okay, Dee, I'll do just that. Psychic Alison Dubois visits Australia for her cold case tour. In May through June of 2026, American Alison Dubois is once again visiting Australia, this time with her cold case tour, claiming that she will be, quote, working some cold cases that are close to your hearts, end quote. Self-proclaimed psychics never let a national tragedy go to waste, preying on the public's optimism and the attention that a missing persons case can bring. This was covered on the last episode of the Skeptic Zone with Tim Mendham. Hello, Tim. And Richard Saunders. Hey, Richard. See the homepage at skeptics.com.au for the full report. The Immunization Advisory Committee reconsiders the polio vaccine. I have no words. The chairman of the U.S. Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP, Kirk Milhoan, suggested that the public reconsider using the polio vaccine, stating that an individual's freedom to refuse the policy is more important. A treatment that prevented the paralytic disease in almost 30 million people since 1960 is being deemed irrelevant in the face of ill-informed opinion. Meanwhile, many vaccine skeptics later vaccinate. A team of epidemiologists analyzed longitudinal data from 1.1 million adults, most of whose vaccination status was unknown. For those who initially did not get vaccinated in 2021, subsequent entries in the UK vaccination registers checked a year later indicate that they changed their minds and did later get vaccinated. And that's good news. Whooping cough in Australia is at a 35-year high. During 2024 and 2025, Australia recorded 82,513 whooping cough cases, which is the highest number since monitoring began in 1991. Whooping cough expectedly surges every 2 to 3 years in Australia with the waning natural immunization, but this cycle was particularly intense. U.S. consumers follow unaccredited nutrition advice from influencers and AI. Nearly half of U.S. consumers act on guidance from social media influencers or AI tools, often without fact-checking or professional input, new research finds. The online psychic reading industry predicted to rise by 60% in 10 years. Over the next 10 years, the online service of psychic readings is predicted to rise from a $3.83 billion industry in 2025 to a $6.24 billion by 2033, which is an increase of 60%. This just prompts the question, who's doing the predicting here? Why science says ghosts do not exist. For centuries, people all over the world have told stories about ghosts. I love ghost stories, to be honest. In many cultures, the dead are believed to come back in spirit form. This article examines the potential reasons and circumstances for why such a common belief occurs, from cultural influences to sleep paralysis and noxious gas poisoning. Donald Trump authorizes access to UFO bases and non-human bodies? What? Okay. The Trump administration has allegedly authorized access to classified UFO facilities to one of Congress's leading voices on disclosure. Republican Congressman Eric Burleson says, quote, "The White House has told the Department of Defense, or the DoD, to make it happen," end quote. Why skeptics can't see the evidence they demand. This is an interesting article that pitches skepticism as being as faulty as pseudoscientific beliefs. Everything cited applies to pseudoscience, but the author says that while skepticism comes down to the need for evidence, he suggested that skeptics are, guess what? Close-minded to the evidence provided. But confusing the amount of evidence with the quality of evidence is not being helpful. Nauticon tickets available. For this year's conference, we are partnering with the Skeptics Guide to the Universe to bring you Nauticon Skepticon, Life, the Universe, and Everything. This will be held at the Sydney Masonic Centre for a full 4 days of skeptical excellence. The dates are Wednesday, July 22nd through to Saturday, July 25th, and tickets can be found at nauticon.com. Bent Spoon 2026 nominations are still open. If you have a burning nomination for the perpetrator of the most preposterous piece of paranormal or pseudoscientific piffle, you can forward them to our nomination page. Nominations should be for events, activities, or claims that have occurred in Australia or by Australians. Special events. 2026 Surf Coast Skepticamp, February 21st, 2026. For their 12th time running, Surf Coast Skepticamp, or SCSC, is Australia's longest-running Skepticamp. This year, it will be hosted at Aries Inlet Community Hall Centre, with various scientific topics and speakers. Best of all, Surf Coast Skepticamp is free. Be sure to register. Silly Story of the Week. Did spruce trees in northern Italy predict a partial solar eclipse? This is a controversy over whether spruce trees can predict a partial solar eclipse, and it's heating up as scientists attempt to debunk the controversial claims. The belief stems from a single observation made on spruce trees displaying heightened electrical activity prior to a partial solar eclipse. Does that mean that a total eclipse would increase it even more? Nope. Story of the week. Bigfoot investigator talks DNA testing and UFO disappearances. Ross Coulthart speaks with groundbreaking Bigfoot investigator Dave Pilatus, implying that Bigfoot is linked with UFO abductions and erroneous DNA testing is responsible for mysterious disappearances. We're just waiting for the headline, quote, "Is alien Bigfoot abducting people in his UFO?" End quote. Reality surpasses satire. Epstein Epilogue. As if there wasn't enough about the detestable Jeffrey Epstein, according to the recently released Epstein files, he also had an interest in the paranormal. Apparently, he was seeking out various individuals with special or superhuman abilities, and surprisingly recruiting physicist Lawrence Krauss to debunk aliens, ghosts, and out-of-body claims. Rather macabrely, the emails also reveal that he met with New Age guru Deepak Chopra to discuss experiments on telepathic children. Well, that is all for this week's newsletter. Now, this past week, I've been doing some research for my talk at Skepticamp on Friday the 13th, which is the day before Valentine's Day. So our theme was about fear, love, and luck. And I am going to be talking about something I have never looked into before. It's the folklore about love. And in my searching, I discovered this lovely book called The Briggs Dictionary of Fairies by Catherine Briggs and Fee Greening. And I thought I would share with you one of the tales because there are some interesting things I noticed in it. This story is a Welsh fairy tale, and it's called Ffonny Foch, and excuse me for my very poor pronunciation. This story, that was written down nearly 700 years ago, is about a fairy who lives in a lake that is courted by a fellow who throws bread and cheese into the water to attract her attention. But the lass is particular about the way the bread is baked, and it takes the young man 3 tries before he gets it right. And the woman rises out of the lake with her father, who gives the man cattle as a dowry. However, he threatens the man that if he strikes his daughter 3 times, she would leave the husband forever, taking all the cattle with her. Of course, this eventually happens, and away she left with the cattle, never to be seen again. However, she left her sons, who had inherited the gift of healing from their mother, and they became the famous physicians of Midfi. What interested me about this story is that both good and bad things were associated with the number 3. There are 3 loaves that won the heart of the fairy, and 3 strikes that made her leave forever. As a side note, I would like to think that 1 or 2 strikes would have been problematic as well. And some listeners might be aware that my very first You Can Count on Adrienne episode was about bad things happening in 3s, and this was in episode 647 on March of 2021. And just a few months later, in episode 655, I delved into how some good things happen in 3s. And in this story, we found both. Until next time, this is Adrienne Hill from Calgary, Canada.
To the digital archives from around the world, normally at TROVE, at trove.nla.gov.au, the resource from the Australian Government and the National Library of Australia, full of digitised Australian news content, magazines, newspapers, that sort of thing. And if you were to ask me, well, thanks for asking, I think it's one of the better digital resources out there. This week, we're going to be looking at a classic bit of quackery, which is a real scam. Interestingly enough, a lot of the people who peddle it, who use it, who make money from it, probably don't realize it's a scam, but a scam nevertheless. We're talking about ion foot baths. Now, you've probably seen these in your wanderings around, especially if you're in cities, various naturopathic clinics, or here in Australia, sort of corner Chinese medicine shops in shopping malls which offer acupuncture and massage will often have a ion foot bath as one of their treatment options. Now, despite these things being debunked years and years ago, it doesn't seem to have stopped the proliferation and the popularity of them. Ion foot baths are often marketed as detox devices that draw toxins out of the body, specifically metals, through the feet using electrically charged water. So it's a little plastic tub, big enough for your feet and a bit more, filled up with water, some salt added, which is important for what is to happen. There are some electrodes in there, switch it on, and as if by magic, after a while, the water starts to turn slightly brown, then all sorts of interesting murky colours. Finally, it's like a rust soup, which is exactly what it is. From a skeptical point of view, the claims that toxins, specifically metals, are drawn out of the feet simply fall apart upon scrutiny. The dramatic change in colour in the water is often presented as proof of detoxification, but they're largely explained by electrolysis, corrosion of the metal electrodes, and reactions with the salts and the skin oils in the water. The same discoloration occurs even when no feet are present. There is no credible evidence that toxins are being removed from the body in this way. In fact, what they claim happens with these heavy metals being removed from the soles of the feet or parts of the feet, it simply doesn't happen. Now, biologically, of course, the body already has highly effective detox systems. That's what the liver and the kidneys and the lungs even are designed to do. The skin, especially the thick part of the feet, is not a meaningful pathway for eliminating toxins. Clinical studies supporting the health benefits of ion foot baths are lacking, and claims rely on testimonials rather than controlled trials. Iron foot baths appear to be a theatrical placebo, visually convincing but scientifically unsubstantiated. While some people find them relaxing, relaxation should not be confused with detoxification or medical benefit. I'd be interested to know if in your part of the world, whether you see these foot bath, these detox things. You can always leave a comment on the Facebook entry for this episode. Now, of course, in my travels, I've picked up a few flyers and leaflets and other things from these foot detox baths. And I have here a picture I took in the window of one of these outfits. I don't know where or when, unfortunately. It was in the last 10, 20 years. It's probably still absolutely applicable today. It's a bit of paper blue tack to what I would presume would be the front door or the front window of a Chinese medicine business or something similar. We've got a series of photographs, 4 photographs of somebody with their feet in one of these detox baths, and as slowly you look across the photographs, they turn murkier and murkier. And also on the page is a handy chart of the colours you might expect to see as your foot is being detoxed and what these colours mean. Starting from the bottom, yellow-green, which would be one of the early colours the murky water would turn, I guess. Detoxifying from kidney, bladder, urinary tract, female, prostate area. White foam, detoxifying from lymphatic system. White cheese-like particles, most likely yeast. Blech. Sounds wonderful. Red flecks, blood clot material. Orange, detoxifying from joints. Dark green, detoxifying from gallbladder. Brown, detoxifying from liver, cellular debris. Tobacco. Brown flecks, heavy metals. Black, detoxifying from liver. Again. Now, also in the same file here in my files of quackery and nonsense, included are the foot detox patches. So you put these patches on your feet, have a nice sleep, and when you wake up they are gunky and dirty, and that is simply a reaction between the contents of the patch and the sweat in the foot. Now, there are various news reports about these foot detox baths on YouTube. I'll link to those. People from various news networks with their, on your side, hard-hitting. They've bought their own devices and tested them and discovered exactly what science would say they are. So I would have to say, much like the bioresonance machines, like the Metatron, which we will get to in a future episode of the Skeptic Zone, whoever invented these things knew exactly what they were doing and knew they didn't work. But they're marketed towards gullible naturopaths and other people who think they are doctors, people who do not do their due diligence about whether what they're buying is quackery or not. And here's a quick example of one of those.
A viewer emailed our Verified team with an interesting question. Michelle Freeman wanted to know if detoxification foot baths are for real. If you haven't seen them before, the foot baths claim to remove the toxins from your body, and it looks pretty convincing. By the end, the water turns brown, allegedly so filled with toxins, it gets discolored. So here's what our Verify fact checkers found out for us. There hasn't been a lot of research, but a 2012 study looking at the Ion Cleanse foot bath found that it did not reduce toxin levels in the body. Researchers also determined that it didn't stimulate the body to remove toxins by itself. Also, the reason why the water changes color, well, this is the best one perhaps, is most likely a result of chemical reaction between the salts used and tap water, not your body and what it produces. So, Michelle, we can verify while a foot bath might be a great way to relax, the claim that it's removing toxins from your body, well, that is false. If you are like Michelle and there is something you want our Verify team to check out for you, you can contact our fact checkers by emailing them at verify@khou.com, on Facebook, or using the hashtag KHOUVerify.
With a little thank you there to KHOU for that story and putting it online. But let's have a look to see, and we're going to go to the United States this time, for newspaper reports about these detox baths. This time we're going to enlist the aid of Google newspapers. We find ourselves in the year 2007 on the 18th of December as printed in The Ledger. And The Ledger is from Florida. It's quite a lengthy article, so I'll just try to read the salient bits here. Life Health section. And there's a photograph here of two women, one of whom has her feet in the detox bath, which looks sufficiently discoloured. The other woman seems to be looking on. And the caption reads, Sherry Van Ipol, I think that's pronounced, it's a Dutch name, left, gives Linda Adams a detox foot bath at John Christopher Salon in Lakeland. Quote, for the next 2 or 3 days, I am super energized, end quote, says Adams, who has a foot bath twice a month. And the article in general is called Oohs and Ahs. New detox foot baths have believers and skeptics by Gary White. The other photograph here in the story is a top-down view of somebody's feet in the foot bath. The Ion Spa machine transmits negatively charged ions, which is believed to draw toxins through the pores of your feet. Emily Hertz entered the salon planning only to shed some hair and wound up sitting with her feet in a tub of water that looked like the oil pan from an overused jalopy. The Auburndale resident was unfamiliar with the concept of detoxifying foot baths before her recent visit to John Christopher Salon in Lakeland, but she left a believer. She said the session yielded relief from her chronic ankle pain and left her feeling more energetic. Quote, I would definitely recommend it for anyone who can go in and not anticipate what it's going to do and just let it happen, end quote, Hertz said. Quote, if nothing else, it gives you a feeling of accomplishment. I felt I was actually doing something good for my body, end quote. And what do we say? A classic case of placebo there. Devices that purportedly use a chemical process to draw toxins out through the feet have been showing up in hair salons. Proponents claim the procedure pulls toxic elements out of major organs, such as the liver and the gallbladder, and offers an array of health benefits. The Ion Spa, the machine used at John Christopher Salon, is one of many such devices that follow the same basic principle. It transmits low-voltage current through an electrode assembly set between the client's feet in a small tub of water spiced with salt. The assembly, attached by a cable to a keypad controller, emits negatively charged ions and raises the alkalinity of the water according to the operator's manual. The negative ions pass into the body, attaching to positively charged toxic substances and forcing them out through the skin via osmosis, the manual says. Now, can you imagine it? You put your feet into one of these things, it's switched on, and shortly little bits of metal are making their way through your body, presumably at some stage or other via the heart. Call me skeptical. We read on. Hertz doesn't pretend to understand the theory, but she's certain that something happened during her session. She said the water in the tub was clear at the beginning and was dark and murky at the end, with rusty foam and what appeared to be oil floating on the surface. Quote, all I kept saying was, ooh, gross, end quote. Hertz, 63, said with a laugh. Now, as I said before, the story is lengthy, but I'll just read a little bit more of the salient points. Footbath believers. The salon charges $40 for a session, which lasts about 30 minutes. Kathy Lofton, a stylist who oversees the treatment, said the machine has become popular with many clients since the salon bought it in May 2006. Lofton said she and a fellow stylist find relief from arthritis in their hands through the treatment. Lofton's clients include Judy Moss, who said she incurred lasting nerve damage in her legs as a result of a car accident. Moss, 60, said she had undergone epidural pain-killing injections, acupuncture and other procedures, but they failed to block the burning sensation in her legs. Moss, a Bartow resident, said her first session last year brought dramatic relief that lasted for months. Quote, "That's good when you have had a $1,500 procedure that doesn't do anything at all," end quote, Moss said. Quote, "This procedure really worked for me. Kathy said I'm like a shining example for how well it can work," end quote. And we'll just skip a bit here, but you know what? I will link directly to this story in this week's show notes, so you can click the link and call up this newspaper for yourself. A little bit further down this page, it says no medical claims. While practitioners might make bold claims about the healing effects of the treatment, the manufacturer of ion spa is careful to avoid such statements. The machine is registered with the Food and Drug Administration under a category for non-medical devices. Quote, "What we've decided is that we as a company don't make any medical claims," end quote, said Joel Constable, Vice President of Bella Spa Products, the Arkansas-based manufacturer. Quote, "Different people using the product can say anything they want. Our control level over individuals is very low. We don't subscribe to the theory that anything is pulled out of the feet at anything but the dermal level," end quote. Constable said his company doesn't promote the water colour chart, though an internet search shows it appeared in Ion Spa's operators' manuals from 2002 through 2004, when the company was known as Wellspring Products. Lofton said the brochure containing the chart came with the product. And as I said, that just goes on for quite a while with different takes on this story. But there's an interesting quote here from Emily Hertz, who says, quote, "I believe there's a possibility it could be beneficial. It could be no worse than taking another pill. This doesn't hurt you, at least," end quote. No, it doesn't hurt you directly, but it is costing you money for a claim that it can't fulfill. It's basic consumer law, I would have thought. And in a broader sense, if you think you've been detoxified and you're not, quick look here, simply a Google search, Foot Detox Sydney, comes up with a little map dotted with red dots. Now, not to be confused with a business that might offer a nice soaking foot bath for your enjoyment without the detox claims. Sounds good, I might try it. Well, there you go. Foot detox, drawing those heavy metals out through the soles of your feet. Again, it occurred to me that if the claim is that soaking your feet with this machine will extract toxins from your body, heavy metals and so on, then you would expect at some stage or other they would travel through the heart on their journey to the feet. Can you imagine lumps of metal traveling through your heart? Not good. It just goes to show what I say week after week. When you go to Trove or any online resource, newspapers and archives, and you're doing your search, well, you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast, and thank you to those people who continue to support the show at PayPal or Patreon. Via skepticzone.tv, you'll find the links, and your support and encouragement means the show can keep going. Don't forget to check out the Skeptic Zone page at skepticzone.tv for links to Noticon, and I'll add a link there to the Surf Coast Skepticamp next Saturday at beautiful Aries Inlet. But before I go, if you're in Australia and you would like to nominate somebody for the Bent Spoon Award, go to skeptics.com.au and down the bottom of the page, I think you'll find a link to the Bent Spoon Award. We are in need of more nominations. Somebody or an outfit or a brand or a product or something like that you think is making outrageous claims that defy the laws of physics or common sense, let the Australian skeptics know. But for this week, This is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.
What is it? If you're happy and you know it, say meow.
Hello, Rosie.